for our community of readers, like, what is When Days Tilt about? And yeah, can you kind of set the scene for us a bit about this world you've created?
I can, yeah. So When Days Tilt, I've actually have a copy here. There's the cover, is a historical fantasy. And it follows 14-year-old Ava through London in 1858, at a time when London is the biggest city the world has ever seen. So it's fast, it's furious, it's brutal. And one of the terrors that is happening on the streets of London at that time is that people are disappearing into thin air without explanation. People don't know why. And when they come back, they're damaged, their souls are torn. And so Ava is a reluctant watchmaking apprentice to her father. And one day, her life turns upside down when she's visiting her mother's grave. And she learns that the body in her mother's grave is that of a stranger. And she also encounters this dark mirror version of London. It's like a parallel city. And she has to discover who her mother is, who she is, what her story is, and how those stories are connected to Donlon, which is this mirror city, and also the disappearances on the streets of London. So that's kind of the, blurb, I suppose. And so it follows Ava, she's the main character. It's told in alternating viewpoints though. So there's another very significant B character called Jack. And Jack is a metalworking apprentice, and he's based in Donlon, in this mirror city. And so their lives and their stories become intertwined as they have a quest that they have to achieve. And Jack is he has deep sight, so he can see far more than people want him to see. But he's grown up quite a tough life. So he's learned to hide that between quite a tough exterior. But so it's these two characters who sort of learn to get along. They're quite different, and they have an adventure together between London and Donlon.
Wonderful.
And it's the first in a series. There's a first in a series. There's another book coming out in May next year, and that's it's a 2-book, it's a duology, and that kind of ups the ante. I can't talk too much about that because of spoilers, but new characters get introduced. There's a boss battle, which I'm quite excited about because I'm editing it at the moment. It's lots of fun to write. Yeah, so it's sort of like this book, but with the ante upped.
Wonderful. And it's such a great premise. I also really love it. It kind of reminded me of some of those. I wonder if it's the European setting, but also just the way you write, which is beautiful and very, I guess, a kind of classical tone. And I mean that in the best way. It reminded me a little bit of like Philip Pullman and the Mirror Visitor series. Were there specific texts that you drew inspiration from, or just more broadly, can you talk about your inspiration, I guess?
Yeah, not consciously, not at all. I adore and revere Philip Pullman. So any comparison is both flattering and terrifying because people keep saying that. And I don't flatter myself it's that I'm in the same league as him because I'm not. But I think there are parallels with the kind of book it is and the way the story is told from these characters. And that certainly wasn't a conscious decision at all, but it's just kind of, I guess you sort of subconsciously draw on your influences, don't you? So I've always loved Ursula Le Guin and those sort of people that draw these worlds which are really real, but also very, very solid, very rooted in character and emotion and relatable, but also just sort of fly off into the imagination. So I suppose those are the Tolkien, I loved all those things. I used to read everything. I used to read the back of cornflake packets. I was quite, I would just read whatever was put in front of me when I was younger, which is great actually, but I used to just devour everything. But those were the things I did. And when I write, I find that there's always often that edge of the fantastic. I loved magical realism, when there was that whole South, it was a big trend a while ago. It's always been around, obviously, but Gabriel Garcia Marquez and Isabel Allende and what's the Brazilian guy? There's a Brazilian guy, Jorge Amado. So I love all that. I love that sort of rooted in the everyday, but with these sort of flaring out, I suppose, into sort of magic or fantastical elements, which I think reflects a worldview as well, because I think I do see I think I've said it on my website, the strange and the tilted in the everyday all the time. I'm always seeing, I think it is there, and I think maybe it's the way we frame it, we see it or we don't see it. So I can relate to, they seem to have a certain, yeah, kind of a truth to them, even though they're fantastical. I love that sort of writing.